Well, good evening and welcome to the High River Community Wellness Challenge, our 10th anniversary of this challenge, no less, and completely virtual. So thank you for joining us. We are excited to have you here for info session number 2. And just a quick update, everybody got their points in today, so I'm pretty excited that all 29 teams have got their points in and we're ready to roll in week number 2. Okay. I am so excited for our next guest tonight, truly. He is a lifelong nature enthusiast and a longtime writer about nature and the outdoors. And he's written 3 books on this subject. And even before knowing there had been 3, Bruce, because I didn't realize all 3 of your books were about that. We just knew when we wanted to talk about self-care and nature and being outdoors and finding ways to use nature in mental health, we just knew you were the guy we wanted to come and chat with us during this session. So we're so excited you're here. And just to note, I'm going to do a shameless plug for Bruce because he won't. His latest book, which I love, it's called One Last Cast, Reflections of an Outdoor Life, is available anywhere you get books. So if you need something to read during this COVID time, I highly recommend you pick up this book because it's awesome. So Bruce, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Jody, thanks so much for having me tonight. It's a real honor to be here and welcome everybody. Hopefully I'll kind of live up to that billing. So thanks, Jody.
You will, without a doubt. So we appreciate it. This week's theme for people who maybe be checking out the page that don't know is we're talking about love/self-care as a part of our How's Your 5. And I'm going to turn this officially over to you now to share some of your stories and experience and thought on the importance of having nature in your life.
Okay, excellent. Thanks so much. And again, thanks for a great introduction. I'd like to start with a quote, which I'm going to have to read because I don't memorize things. I don't trust my memory. I don't know if anybody's like that these days. Is everybody's memory working way better than mine? I hope so. But I'm going to read this quote, and it goes like this. The best remedy for those who are afraid, lonely, or unhappy is to go outside, somewhere where they can be quite alone with the heavens, nature, and God. And those words were written by somebody that you will recognize, Anne Frank, while she and her family were in hiding in Amsterdam during the Second World War. And they spent more than 760 days in isolation before they were finally discovered and sent to a concentration camp. And I just, I think for those of us who are going through, I mean, we're all going through COVID. We're in, I think, week 7. We haven't even done 50 days and we're certainly not hiding in a secret little room hoping that the enemy isn't going to find us. Although, actually, the enemy is COVID, and so it's just amazing to me that this young teenage girl would write these words while going through such a horrifying experience. And I know that many of us are not liking sort of being in isolation, not being able to do what we normally would do. But we also know that this is not going to last forever, and that we're going to come out of this on the other end, and it will be just swell. So, but the quote of Anne Frank's, I've always really liked it. It resonates with me so much because it really speaks to kind of the healing power of nature, just the power of nature, and certainly over the years, Jody was kind enough to say lifelong interest in nature without saying how many years that is, but it's lots, and it really has contributed to my physical, mental, spiritual well-being, and And right now with COVID, I think the biggest thing that we can do for ourselves is be gentle with ourselves and give ourselves permission to escape, to go into nature and or anything else that we find solace in, some comfort in. And so the really neat thing about what nature does for you is that people way smarter than me have researched this extensively. I just kind of write about how I feel, and I go by you know, my own experiences. But people way smarter than me have actually researched this, and they have found that exposure to nature reduces stress. It puts you in a better mental place. Stress, anger, fear, sort of what Anne Frank was referring to, while promoting healing in the process, which is huge. It's a natural mood enhancer. I sometimes tell the story of being in a program for women dealing with addictions. I wasn't in the program. I was there as a volunteer, and I spoke to a group of them, and I made their eyes go wide when I talked about what being outdoors does for me and my depression. I pretty much had depression most of my life, and I said, and somebody said, well, you know, you seem so happy, you seem so jolly, and you know, how do you deal with this? And I said, well, there's many ways of dealing with it, as everybody knows. But I said, you know, one thing that works for me is liberal and regular doses of being outdoors. And what I actually said was I self-medicate with liberal doses of being outdoors, and that made them calm down once they knew what I was self-medicating with. But so I certainly feel that everybody these days needs some kind of mood enhancer, and because you know these are challenging times. You know, we all know that. But I think it's really important that we turn to, you know, whatever we can that's healthy for us, to help enhance our moods. And you know, I certainly you know, through nature, nature's really helped me, and many other people that I know, through the peaks and valleys of depression, has sort of you know, smoothed it out a little bit, leveled it out, and I always feel better having been outdoors and in nature. Researchers have actually come up with the name vitamin N for nature, because it's such a soothing and healing place for so many people. And so the key now is to try to figure out, you know, how we're supposed to be in nature, how we're supposed to enjoy nature, while all the health experts are telling us we should be staying home, that we should be, you know, not venturing far away, that to not travel anywhere by car unless it's absolutely necessary, and if we do venture out, to do social distancing. So it's what I really want to cover tonight is sort of ways that we can do that, and you know, just without going far away. And one way, of course, is to just enjoy nature from home, and that's that we can enjoy nature in our residences, and in our own yards, in you know, without really going anywhere. And one way, and no, this isn't a shameless plug for any of my books, but one way we can do it is by reading. and rereading some of our favorite nature writing, and some of the books that take us back to into the woods and into the street, the fields, and we just to places that are so special to us, and I certainly do that. I've been sort of working my way through some new reading, but I've also gone into our shelves and pulled out some older books that just because they're about the outdoors, and they just remind me of a wonderful place. And so it's really I really urge people to read about nature, but also read about the activities that you like to do, whether it's canoeing or camping or hiking or fishing or whatever. Read about it. It will take you back to happier times. It'll cast your mind back to a happier time and a more peaceful time. And so without even leaving home, just read about it and live and experience the outdoors vicariously through other people's writing. It's a great time as well. And I read something yesterday that was very telling. It said don't take on huge tasks. Don't take on way too much right now. I actually posted that thing on my Facebook page, and it came from our daughter Sarah. She had shared it with us, and to me it really spoke to me, because we and it really said, don't even try to do what you would normally be doing without COVID, because this is a strange time and this is a stressful time, and we don't need to add more stress to ourselves. So but one thing you could do, if you felt so inclined, was look up some identification birds, or go online, identification guides for birds, and things that the birds that you might see in your backyard, and have never really known the name of them. And we have such an array of bird life in High River because of all the green space we have, and I think it's really neat to find out that sound we hear is not an owl in daylight, but a Eurasian collared dove. People are always saying to me, "Oh, I had owls in my backyard," and maybe you did, and because we do have owls in High River, but oftentimes the cooing sound that the Eurasian collared doves make can be mistaken for an owl. So just little things like that. It's interesting to learn about these things, and I also I do this myself. I read about destinations. I read about places that I've been to, and places I want to go to, and again, you're giving yourself hope as well that that once this is all done, we'll hopefully before too long be able to visit some of these places and revisit some of these places, and it's just wonderful to give us some hope, because we all need a little hope right now. So there's another way to enjoy art, nature, without even leaving home, and it's through photographs or paintings that you might have in the house, photographs that you might have in an album if you don't have them hanging on a wall, and it's just wonderful to kind of go back and look at some of these images, and to take you back to when it happened, or you really have to. This won't surprise some of you, but I've got a fairly active imagination, so I like to look at things. Don't laugh, Jody. And I like to look at things and imagine imagine what it was like to be in that spot right at that time, on that mountain trail, or at the side of that marsh. What else was happening that we're not seeing in the picture? And I think that's all part of enjoying it as well, is adding that element, that unknown element. So use your imagination. Paintings are a wonderful medium to enjoy nature without leaving home. And again, you have to give yourself permission to take the time to not think about other stuff, to put your phone aside and get off social media for a few minutes and look at paintings, and again, use your imagination, about what that painting represents, what it might represent, what it potentially could represent. We've got a couple of paintings in our house that really do that for me, and they're one is by Annie Froese, and the other one is Dave Abma, and two incredibly talented local artists. And Annie's picture is actually, or not picture, Annie's painting is actually on the wall behind me. I'm going to duck down just for a second so that maybe you can see this thing. It's not an accident that painting is in a prime place in our house that we see every single day, and that I see several times a day. This was, it was actually a gift from my family for a rather significant birthday a few years ago, and Annie created it for me. So it's very, very special. I love, as you can see, there's snow-capped mountains, there's trees, there's water, and I don't know if that water is a river or a lake or a pond or what it is. And you know what? It doesn't matter, because one day I might think that's a river, and another day I might think, that's a nice little part of a lake that's there. But to me, it's a place of mystery. This painting was not based on any particular scene. I didn't give Annie a picture that I'd taken and say, I'd like you to paint this. I just said, Annie, I'd like you to just paint whatever you'd like to paint. And it's really neat to me, because I can look at that painting and I just see a very special place. And it could be any place that I've been to. I've been to places like that, but I've never been to that place. And I can look at that painting many, many times a day, and I think, I want to be right there. And one day, when all this is over, I will be right there. And I'm going to look at a scene like that, and I'm going to say, this could be Annie's painting. So it's just really, really special to me to have that. The Dave Abma painting, it's also an original. It's on the wall over there. I won't walk my computer over there to show it to you, but it depicts a couple of people fishing from a canoe, and one and possibly both are young women, but it's a beautiful picture. They're in the canoe. One is standing without life jackets, which anal me, it kind of drove me crazy a little bit. But of course, it would have taken it away to add life jackets, and far be it from me to second guess an artist like Dave Abma. But the trees and the leaves are shrouded over the water, and the leaves are golden, and they're orange. It's beautiful fall colors. It's just an ideal scene, and I look at that, and every time I look at it, and that's why I bought it from Dave at a fundraiser. Every time I look at it, it takes me back to when our girls, Chelsea and Sarah, were younger, and we would fish quite a bit, oddly never in a canoe, so it doesn't really, canoes don't mean a whole lot to me personally, but we fished a lot, and this painting, I look at it and it reminds me of those days, but equally important, it gives me hope that someday we will do that again, and we will fish again, and so just so important to me. We also, in our house, we've got lots of photographs, obviously, that I've taken, that other people have taken. And so I can see eagles and I can see mule deer. I'm looking at a mule deer right now in a, a magnificent buck, partially hidden in by branches. And I can see pictures of rivers and double rainbows over the foothills. And just all kinds of things that remind me of special times. And again, that also give me hope that those times will be back at some point before too long. And so we can also, go outside or watch birds in your backyard from a window, or sit in the backyard. But it's really neat to actually take a few minutes. Again, leave your phone. Take a few minutes and look outside at what's happening. And if you're out in the backyard, then you can hear it as well. And you see the birds and you see them kind of jockeying for position on the on the trees and the various trees that they feed on berries, and it's just really neat to see the assortment. So again, watching nature, and again, all the assortment of birds that we have in High River is just amazing. And I'm not going to name them all because it's hundreds of species, but it's interesting to learn their habits. Like, again, an identification guide of some kind. And I just find that the more I know about something, it adds that much interest to it, or it makes me that much interested. So you will, by doing that also, you can't help but relax. You can't help but find your heart rate is slowing, and you just feel in this peaceful place. It's just by osmosis. It just happens. And so of course, another great way of seeing the outdoors, enjoying the outdoors and nature, is to go for a walk. And I do really need to talk about some of the guidelines. What I've chosen to do when it comes to going for a walk. Certainly, Dr. Dina Hinshaw every day talks about people should stay home, but go for walks from home. But not if you're COVID positive, or not if you're showing any symptoms at all. Then stay home, or get yourself tested and taken care of somewhere. But she urges us to stay home and go for walks, but also practice social distancing. So for many of us, and many of the people watching, I'm sure as well, it's meant a huge life adjustment, because we're just used to jumping in our cars and whenever we feel like it, and going to the mountains, or going to the foothills, or going to the prairies, and now they don't want us to do that. They want us to stay home. They want us to flatten the curve of COVID. The more of us who do that, who resist the urge to go places where there's lots of people, And even if there aren't lots of people, on the way there, on the way back, if you get in an accident, that's going to add to the add work to an already overtaxed healthcare system. And so I totally understand Dr. Dina's, I feel like we're friends, you know, I just call her Dr. Dina. But it's really important that we do this stuff, because we are all in this together. And if we're supporting each other on this, then we'll flatten the curve, we'll be past this so that we can actually jump in our cars and go places to enjoy. But really quite happily in High River, we have some incredible places. We've got more green space per capita than many other communities in Canada. We've, you know, whether it's, you know, walking on the Happy Trails or going through George Lane Park or various other parks, or tromping through the Mercer property and other places like it on the west side of High River. We've just got so much to choose from that is within walking distance. And I think it's really important that we recognize that and celebrate these areas now and get to know them. This is a great opportunity to get to know the places right on our doorsteps, because we're stuck here for now, and it's kind of a happy stuck in some ways, and a not very happy in other ways. But so I just wanted to, just in the last couple of weeks, sometimes I walk alone, sometimes Karen and I go for walks together, and just in the last couple of weeks, we've seen an incredible amount of an assortment of wildlife in High River, and we don't go, you know, 6 in the morning or 8 at night when wildlife is usually more active. You know, these are during the day walks, and you know, we've seen beaver, we've seen muskrats, we've seen great blue herons, great horned owls, a white-breasted nuthatch one day, the first one of the year for me, and deer just kind of social distancing themselves out in a field a few days ago when I walked by, and it's just an amazing assortment of wildlife. And then one day we, Karen and I were walking, and we could hear geese, but we didn't see geese. And oh yeah, we also I saw a wood duck one day, which is kind of a rarity for High River. But so these geese we could hear, but we couldn't see these geese. And finally Karen said, "We're looking too low, look way up." And there were just thousands and thousands and thousands of snow geese that were heading east, way ahead, way above us. And they just look spectacular against this bright blue sky. And I don't know if they were heading to Frank Lake or where they were going, but it was just an incredible sight, and one of those sights that I wouldn't have seen if I'd been back here, if we'd both been back here sitting at our computers working. And so when you get a chance to go, you should go. I think it's really important that we differentiate as well between a nature walk and an exercise walk, a power walk. One of those walks that we set out, we think, we've got to hit 10,000 steps. I've got to do it in 45 minutes. You know, I'm in a hurry, I've got to rush. So leave your Fitbit behind. Every now and then, we do have to do those walks, those exercise walks. It's just the way it is. And we'd all be in horrible shape by the end of this thing if we didn't do them. But every now and then, every second or third exercise walk, go on a nature walk, slow it down a little bit, give yourself permission maybe even to leave your dog behind, which I know is a horrible thing to say. And I hope the dogs aren't listening, but because then you're not kind of worrying about controlling your dogs. You're focused more on the walk and what you're going to see. And so it's really, again, it's a thing of, it's to giving yourself this mental break, this physical mental break, to just be out there and seeing things and enjoying them. If you're comfortable going by yourself, go by yourself. That way also you're not having a conversation with people, you're not making a lot of noise, you're more likely to see something and actually not just see it, but notice things that are sometimes difficult to see. Nature walks, all about the journey, not the destination. Again, the exercise walks, the Fitbit walks, they're all about the destination. You just go, and yes, you might see a few things along the way. So sit down every now and then. I'm big on enjoying a walk, but also if I get to a place where there's a stump to sit on with a view, I'll sit there and just kind of take in everything. Did that at Mercer, Karen and I on the weekend. The osprey was there. I understand they're both there now. I haven't seen the second one, but I wouldn't have seen that osprey because it wasn't on a nest. It was far away in a tree, and I could just see the outline when I was sitting on the stump. Again, you have to be open. You have to open your eyes, and you have to open all your senses. If you're sitting there, close your eyes. Breathe. We all have to breathe. I mean, not just breathe to live, but we have to really breathe in our surroundings. We have to, and that way we experience everything. We hear the sounds that we might not hear. We smell the smells. A nature walk is about engaging all the senses, not just your eyes. And touch things, touch a tree, touch a pussy willow, touch the water, but be really careful because the highwood's really high right now. Not really high, not scary high, but it's just in spring runoff and it's just starting. So take a photo, either one with your phone or your camera or just in your mind. But no matter what kind of, whether it's a mental photo or an actual photograph, keep that. And when times are rough and you're worried and you're afraid of things and you're wondering what the future is going to be, and you're worried about whether that cough is COVID, or you look back on that picture, it'll take you back to that moment. That snapshot in time will just take you back, and so that you can relax, you can enjoy it, you can see the potential. Nature will help get us through this if we let it. So I didn't really think I'd ramble this long, Jody, but you knew I would. So yes, you're nodding so knowingly. So anyway, I don't know if there's time for questions or anything, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
There's always times for questions with you. So thank you so very much. And before we have a few questions, and just lots of people sharing on Facebook tonight, just appreciative that you're sharing and you're chatting, and thankful that you're here. So please know that. But I just want to say from myself is I always have appreciated the great leadership that you show our community in your willingness to be so real and to be almost, and I love the word vulnerable. It comes across to people in many different ways, but when I say someone has the courage to be vulnerable with you, I think that is the strongest, most courageous thing people can do. And I'm always so appreciative how you do that with such grace. So thank you for doing that again tonight, because I think we're in this place where things are so unknown, and I always feel so much better every time I chat with you. So I'm so glad everybody else got to have that moment with you tonight also. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Jody.
I had a book idea while you were talking tonight because I loved when you were saying for people to read about nature and read about, favorite things like that, or activities and destinations. And I think it'd be really cool if people started to journal some of those favorite thoughts or ideas, and then you could compile those and you come up with this how nature got us through COVID in High River sort of compilation book. So take that if you may.
Thank you.
Just because I think it would be so great. But one of the questions was asking you what your favorite place within town to take a good nature walk is, and bonus points if it's wheelchair accessible.
George Lane Park. George Lane Park is definitely wheelchair accessible, and it's the kind of place, like when I say nature walk, I spend a lot of time stopped when I'm on a nature walk, and because I think the stopping and the experiencing and the seeing things when you're stopped that you wouldn't see if you were just tromping along. So certainly with the caveat of the wheelchair accessible, that George Lane, but the entire pathway system, like I've spent a lot of time on the pathway system in the past weeks, past years really, but they're all paved. Many of them run beside water, whether it's the river or the canal or the Emerson Lake, Sunshine Lake, and there's stuff happening there. Like there's nature is happening there, and so it's just we live kind of in the central part of High River, Water Tower area. And so we're absolutely blessed to, really be within a 20-minute walk, even of Mercer, and the whole the west side, and it's a beautiful walk from here. But from our place, it's we've got so many different loops and routes that we like to take, including down west, down across Little Bow Bridge, and then past the fitness center and the little dog park and the recplex, and it was in there that we saw the great horned owl. I don't mind telling you there, he's not there anymore. He's not nesting there, so don't go looking for a nest. But that's where we saw the great blue herons, and we just see a lot of stuff, and people have been very respectful. I need to say that, because we are supposed to, and we not just supposed to, we need to be so distancing, physical distancing, social distancing, whatever you want to call it. People have been very respectful that we've encountered on the pathways, and somebody on a bike is coming towards me. I know that person needs the path, so I do a big wide loop, a big wide circle around that person, and otherwise, it's very easy to be safe out there when you're walking.
We've had a few people commenting that they didn't realize there was so many different species of birds around High River. So I think that's really cool. And someone would like you to name the dove you were talking about earlier, because they weren't sure if they had maybe an owl or one of these birds in their yard.
Okay, it was a Eurasian collared dove, and Eurasian, EURASIAN, whatever, Eurasian.
Yeah.
And they're really neat. They're a very pretty dove, and the collar, very distinctive, dark. They're a gray, kind of a slate color, and light slate, and then with this collar, and just a very pretty bird to look at. But they do make this cooing sound that many people have said to me, that they heard an owl, and when I asked them more about it, I asked if there were any birds around that looked like pigeons with with collars on, and oftentimes people have said that, and people are also, I'm sure, hearing owls. Like we heard an owl the other day at 3 in the afternoon, broad daylight, and Karen heard it. I'm deaf and a stump, but Karen heard it. She's got great ears, and then once she heard it and we could pinpoint it, and then I could hear it once I could see it. So we definitely have owls, all kinds of different owls in High River. So there's a chance it might have been an owl that you heard, but there's a pretty good chance it was a Eurasian collared dove.
All right. Someone would like to know what your favorite fishing hole is. But that's usually like to the grave secretive for a good fisherman, isn't it?
That's almost a rude question.
I was afraid to ask, knowing how sacred that is, but you could just make something up. We'll never know. Yeah.
I will give you in vague terms it's the Highwood River. I'm not going to say where. Highwood River goes all the way from the mountains down to where it meets the bow, way downstream. So I'm not going to say where, but definitely the Highwood River is my favorite place.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Well, we appreciate it. And I think there's several comments tonight. Your info session has gone over with quite a hit. So you'll have to, once we stop being live, Bruce, I invite you to come check it out, because lots of people have shared just lots of messages of thanks to you and things that they've got from tonight's info session. So thank you again for sharing. I loved.
Sorry, Jody.
And I was going to say, I loved how you talked about taking some time with pictures in the house, because you see, I've got a Doug Mitchell print over here of a road west of Turner Valley, and I think there's my flamingo. I've got this picture of crocuses that my grandma used to go on a nature walk every spring when crocuses first came out. And so when I take time with that picture, like you can go back to those, like I know what it smelled like, how the air felt, what stories she would tell you, like going to seek them. And it's cool how that can be a tool to help us feel like we're getting outside of the walls when we don't have the opportunity to. So thank you for that, painting that picture, pun intended.
Well, Jody, I was just going to say very quickly, if anybody has questions that they want to ask later, shoot them to me on private messenger on Facebook. And I'll respond to them, and I certainly will read the comments, and I look forward, and I really am very grateful to people who have commented, and if you haven't, I'm also grateful for you just to be here listening and sharing this time together. So thank you to everybody, and thanks to Jody for inviting me.
For begging you? No, I'm just kidding. I look forward to our book collaboration. This is going to be great. We've got a project we can work on in small doses over the next several weeks. It'll be fine.
For years.
Yeah, very good. It works great. So thank you again for taking time. Don't forget, of course, to get your bonus points as well for connecting with us on this video tonight, that we invite you to make a comment, because we love to hear your feedback on the info session, but also to share this video onto your social circles. There was a lot of incredible tips that Bruce gave us tonight that could help people no matter where you're living. And I think that's the sort of the excitement of having a virtual wellness challenge, is we're able to share that into our social media circles all across Canada and the world, that if we can help give more people some tips on with their mental wellness and getting in touch with nature during this time frame, I think that that's a good thing. So we would love you to share that also, and appreciate your time tonight. So thank you, Bruce, and we hope everybody has a great rest of their Wednesday. Bye.
Thank you.